This was the week where Georgia Republicans decided to punish its own residents for voting Democrat by passing a sweeping set of new voter restrictions that criminalize line warming, which means giving water or food to anyone waiting in line to vote, requires a state ID to send a mail-in ballot, ends portable polling sites, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was now just a skin tone swath at the entry of each polling place. Like you compare, like must be this white to ride type thing. Also, the laws strip the Secretary of State from being the one to oversee the election board, instead letting the legislature appoint a board that will have control over voting. So remember, this past election, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger refused to help Trump find 11,780 votes just somewhere. Like, oh yeah, if I didn't check the shed. Anyway, so he was lauded as a hero. Well, this new rule takes away that power to oversee the electoral elections from the Secretary of State and moves it into the legislature. And mind you, also, the current governor was the former Secretary of State who made sure that people were turned away from the polls in 2018 when Stacey Abrams was running for governorship, as he was against her. So just setting him up and knocking him down in terms of corruption here. Brian Kemp is a fucking bitch. Let's just be honest. He's a bitch. He's the Lance Armstrong of Georgia democracy. Republicans in Georgia are the Felicity Huffman and William H. Macy of the college admissions process. You know what I'm saying? Like their kid already could get into the college they want with all the wealth and the privilege. They could have gotten an Ivy League school, but no, they had to cheat on top of the cheating. And the only difference is that I don't think Republicans in Georgia are going to see jail time. That's the only difference between those two. Last thing I'll say, the House passed a voter protection laws called H1, which has now been kicked to the Senate, called S1, which will most likely never get the votes it needs to pass, which would help undo these Georgia laws because the filibuster needs to be abolished, which has traditionally been used to stop voting rights and civil rights. Basically, America is trapped in a voter suppression escape room, and time is running out, and we're I don't know, we can't.
Time isn't running out. I mean, civilization is inexorable, but it is tiny, and I do want to. I've purchased some stock in guillotines, but Stacey Abrams won, first of all, and it's egregious. It's obscene, and it literally feels like baiting. It feels like a way to bait people into rioting so that they can bring in the National Guard and actually murder people.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like to me. But I know that's hilarious.
We're so ironic with the guillotine thing, but you're okay, so you don't want us to peacefully voice our dissent through the ballot box.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could see this coming. Republicans only act when there's a threat to, them winning. And of course, what we saw happen in Atlanta and Philadelphia, it just scares people, or scares some people, I guess, into thinking that we might actually have a more equitable future. But, to each his own.
Absolutely.
Right. I think all we can do is fight it. The thing is it's so obviously horrible that I hope, the Supreme Court is stacked, so there's trouble. But the thing is at some point you play whack-a-mole with these people, and you have to figure out how to get a bunch of them down at once so that you can move a half a step forward.
Yeah.
So that people can be treated as adult humans.
Yeah. It's incredible how we have to game out democracy. But I think it's just so bald-faced. Republicans are never called on just openly being against democracy. And I think me coming up in a time when it was Iraq war and, fucking global capitalism running amok throughout the world, I was and the US spreading democracy, I was oh, I hate American democracy is bad. We shouldn't spread. And I think now, however many years later, we're in this moment where we're like, damn, actually, we need to protect this. We need to make it better. And we can't leave it to the Beltway wonks and the Harvard boys anymore, because they like both establishment Democrats have been fucking up this defense against Republicans. Because you still have Biden. Biden gave his press conference and he was like, look, my Republican colleagues have to make a decision of whether they want to work with us or whether they don't. It's like, I think, excuse me, sir, I think they've made their decision.
Yeah.
I just because I've been watching, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing about Biden is that he knows he's a one-term guy who's got to shovel us out of this bullshit. And
but he said otherwise, Jackie, in this presser. He said
he might run again at the age of 86.
Oh yeah.
See what 3 years of pressure cooking does to an 83-year-old guy, you know, and then we'll talk. But yeah, no, I mean, nobody. You know, one of my brothers is a lifelong Republican who has not voted Republican. He voted for Obama twice. He voted for Hillary Clinton, and he voted for Biden. And I was like, well, you're a terrible Republican. He was like, well, it's not like any of those people are really liberal. And I was like, well, they're more liberal than you are. And he's like, well, there's that. And but he knows, you know, the ideals that we all want, that we all believe in, are what we're all striving for. It's just that we've just had the curtain ripped away the last 16 years, showing us that it's all puppets and it's all assholes, and we have to
puppets with large assholes.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah, I feel like Biden is just like a stepdad. Like, he can't win my love unless he like pays off my student loan debt, you know? I want my real dad back, Bernie, but I have to settle for this dude who mom decided to sleep with for a little bit. But it's just, you know, I'm just waiting for him to do something, you know, without just like rolling it back every time. And, you know, it just feels like he's going to get away with just doing nothing at the end of the day because he can't actually make a firm decision on anything. He likes to say things, but I want to see something happen at least.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he touted the $1.9 trillion stimulus, and I think that's a huge step in the right direction. And actually, I mean, this is for another discussion. I do wonder, and I've said this before, if under Bernie, we would have been able to pass that because of how much, you know, red baiting there is about, you know, him being a democratic socialist. But at the same time, if you don't reform the filibuster and or abolish it, you're getting nothing done, and Georgia will never go blue again. I mean, this is the thing. You outsource all of this work to all of the organizations that have to come out and like I bet like postcards are going to be illegal. Like, nope, can't write a postcard in Georgia. You know, like, what is next? And it's so frustrating that we don't have an offensive and like a plan, and the filibuster is the way through. So he was soft on that in the presser again, and I think he needs to go much, much, much harder on it. I should have pulled the clip, but he said it's like, well, you know, if you want to abolish a filibuster, you got to abolish the filibuster. And it's like, yeah, isn't that incredible? We're in a prison of Republicans making. Have you become a patron yet? Patreon.com/Bitchuation is where you can directly support this show and help me make it sustainable so that I can do more of what I do best, doing this.